going on, guys? It's K-Dub here with another episode of CryptoZombie. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having an excellent weekend so far. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies have, for the most part, taken a bit of a dip over this weekend. However, having a look really while everybody's out there panicking, we're essentially just at the same levels that we were 6 days ago. So it really essentially just erased the past 7 days, right? Now, we did know we had major resistance up here, especially just below the $42,000 level. We have had confirmation of the Bitcoin death cross, which I think at this point is probably relatively old news. I will touch on that a bit, but that's not the main focus of today's video. In yesterday's video, we talked about Michael, whatever his name is, from The Big Short coming out saying the mother of all crashes. Now we have Robert Kiyosaki coming out saying that this is the biggest bubble of all time. So we've seen gold falling, we've seen stocks falling, and ironically, we've actually seen the DXY, the dollar index, pumping. So what does this all mean? Why is this all happening right now? Specifically, what is causing this sell-off, right? I want to zoom out. I want to look at actually the macro chart, see if anything has structurally changed, if we should be panicking as much as we actually are. We're going to analyze some on-chain data as well as talk about one specific metric that is extremely important for Bitcoin that could potentially hint at the next move. So if that sounds good to you, that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to try to keep today's video super short and sweet. Stick around to the end. We're going to jam-pack this with information. So without further ado, if you guys are not subscribed yet, well, definitely give that a consideration and let's dive in and have a look at the chart. So in yesterday's video, I was speaking about how I really would like to have had a weekly close above this $38,100 level. You could see it provided so much resistance back here between January and February of this year. We are, in fact, below it. We do have 1 day left for the weekend, so it is possible that we could pump up to that level. It does seem like it might be unlikely. So does this mean that the bulls have failed and that we are definitely due to retest 20,000 or even lower? Well, before we get crazy, we need to have a look at what is happening currently. Now, we were expecting a pullback. I told you guys we were definitely going to see a bounce. In fact, I wanted to have a pullback and a bounce off of some of this previous resistance flipping support. That actually is more indicative of a healthy market. What I did not anticipate was as far as we fell. I was hoping that we would have actually had this resistance acting as support, but it didn't. We fell through. The good news is that we actually bounced off the top of the blue box territory perfectly, which mimicked exactly what we did back here around June 12th. So we've actually had a double bounce right here, which is good, but the thing that I don't like short term is that we are being held down by this resistance. Now, it's only been about 4 hours at the time of making this video. A lot of things could change, especially by, come Monday. We do have CME futures closed, which usually means for a crazy weekend, right? We have lower volumes, we have crazier price moves, more opportunity for these whales to manipulate the markets when there's not as much trading going on, right? So first thing that you just really want to do is break above this resistance. So that resistance currently is sitting at around $36,600. So we really should try, if the bulls want to prove, short term that they can get above these levels, we need to get above that level right now. Now, having a look right here, the one thing that is a little bit worrisome over on the daily, and CME futures is a chart that I do look at quite frequently, is that while we have put in a bit of a momentum wave to the upside, you can actually see that we've been trading in the green ever since February of 2020. And you can see all this green. Look at all this green. This is money flow. This is, life. This is money coming into the markets. And just recently with this dip, now it could be a fake out, but we do have a little bit of a dip into the red, which is showing that there is not as much money coming in, right? So it's kind of showing that the interest for Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, maybe just for the short term, isn't really there. And unfortunately, without new money coming in, you really can't move prices higher, right? So that is something that I am keeping my eyes on. I am concerned about. Now, this could obviously just easily flip back up into the green. That's possible. We've seen things like this happen before, but it's something that we do have to keep our eyes on because as we've seen in yesterday's video, we have Michael Burry, that's his name, Michael Burry, you know, he's bearish, he was the big short guy. Robert Kiyosaki now, he tweeted just yesterday, the biggest bubble in world history is getting bigger. The biggest crash in world history is coming, buying more gold and silver. But then he says, waiting for Bitcoin to drop to 24K. Crash's best time to get rich, take care. Now, he has been an advocate of Bitcoin and gold and silver for quite some time, but it's interesting how he says he's buying more gold and silver, but he's going to wait for Bitcoin to drop to 24K. Does he know something that we don't know? What's happening here, right? We have seen a lot of calls for these lower price levels. Now, these levels may never come. There are a lot of people that are anticipating buying Bitcoin sub 30K, 20K. So because so many people are expecting the price to go lower, it may not actually go lower. In fact, if you guys are following me over on Twitter, I actually added more to my spot Bitcoin hodl bag because there was just so much unbelievable bearishness happening yesterday that, you know, my experience in these markets are buy when there's blood in the streets, right? Be greedy when others are fearful. Now, that's not to say that the total absolute bottom of this move is in, but for me, long-term hodling, dollar cost averaging has never proven to be a bad strategy, regardless of what levels you've ever bought Bitcoin. If you've bought recently, you might be down, but history has proven that long-term Bitcoin is programmed to go up. However, we have had these traditional stocks falling. You can see the S&P right here has taken a bit of a dip, 2%, 3%. Now, you can see that it has followed this nice trend line, and it's not uncommon for it to have these dips, you know, from here to here, etc. So it wouldn't be uncommon to see this come down to about these levels right here and then maybe have a bit of a bounce. But the interesting thing, and I do want your opinion, your expertise on this. I want your advice, guys. Let me know, what do you think about this? Because we have seen the dollar index absolutely skyrocket in the past week. In fact, from bottom to top, you can see right here, it's up over 3%. I don't really know why it moved this high specifically. I couldn't really find anything going on in the news, going on in the world. I mean, definitely what's happening with all of the money printing, especially here just in the US, it does seem a little strange, but nevertheless, we have seen inverse correlations between the dollar and things like stocks, gold, and Bitcoin, right? Now, I would expect there to be some resistance here. As you can see, it has been held down, so it might only have a little bit more to go before having a pullback, but it is something to keep our eyes on as well. Maybe it has something to do with all these countries that are looking to switch to Bitcoin. Maybe Bitcoin haters are, you know, seeing this and saying, oh, these countries are having a failing fiat system. Maybe that's why the dollar's up. Like I said, please, if you know anything about what caused this crazy spike in the dollar, just drop it below. Or maybe it was just time for a bounce. Could be that simple, right? But having a look right here, we do in fact have the death cross. And while I do not want to harp on this, I just want to point out one more time, speaking from history, if we actually look at every single death cross we've ever had, and I actually have them all marked out right here for you on the logarithmic chart, we have always had a rebound following the death cross, because remember, these are lagging indicators. If you look at the moving averages, they're really showing you what has already happened. Granted, yes, sometimes they do become a self-fulfilling prophecy because traders are looking at that, everybody's looking at that, so we all make the same trade, we all see the same patterns, we all see the same fractals, the same basically the same situations. But if you look at what actually happened, and I'm going to do this super quick for you, when we had the first death cross back here in April of 2014, Bitcoin actually pumped over the course of 61 days, 90% following it. The next time that we had a death cross right here was back in September of 2015. And after that, over the course of about 55 days, Bitcoin pumped 100%. We had one here, which did signal that we were definitely in a bear market back in 2017. But if we look at the time that we actually had the cross from bottom to top, over the course of 37 days, Bitcoin pumped 57%. If we continue right here, on the actual day of the death cross itself, we had Bitcoin from bottom to top doing a 45% pump. That was the president of China, he came out and was talking about Bitcoin, right? We had this insane pump on the daily. Are you guys seeing a bit of a pattern here? Okay. So essentially what I'm trying to say is, unless the whales are aware of the fact that we know that this is what usually happens, if history does repeat itself, which so far it has every single time Bitcoin has pumped. For example, 42 days starting from March 20 to May 20 March 26th to May 20th, we had a 60% pump as well. So like I said, if history does repeat itself, even if we were to have, let's say, a smaller pump, let's say diminishing returns, we don't even get to 50%. Even if we did a 30% from this level, 30% I think is fair enough. That would still bring Bitcoin to about the $50,000 level, which would put Bitcoin exactly in that range of concern between 48 and 55, where we would be looking for the confirmation of whether or not we're actually, truly 100% verified in a long-term crypto winter. Whereas right now we're just sort of having bearish sideways consolidation, right? We haven't really had that full confirmation of the actual higher low just yet. And you can say that that's what we had right here, but this is not indicative of Bitcoin structure. If this was to happen, this would be the first time that this type of a market structure has ever happened in the history of Bitcoin. I'm not going to rule it out. I'm just going to say that the odds are on the side of bulls, okay? And also, if we zoom in over here, this to me is probably the most important level, which is a little bit concerning because we're actually sitting on that level right now as I'm making this video. But I have talked about this long-term trend. And if we actually take from the bottom of the wick here to where Bitcoin, this was the crazy crash for COVID. We had this dump right here back in September of 2020. We retested it again. We got way, way, way off it. We started mooning into the stratosphere, but we now have come down. We retested it on the wick of that 54% crash, and currently we're sitting on this level right now. This is a very important level for Bitcoin. This is the level that I believe the bulls need to hold short term. If not, we have about one more shot at retesting down here to the $30,000 level. And if we cannot get our bounce, then it's not looking good for Bitcoin, guys. Then it is really, really looking like we may be looking for either a long-term bear cycle or minimally that 6 to 8 month bear cycle that I had spoke about, which would mimic what happened back in 2017. But before we get all doom and gloom, I do want to talk about the magic of the golden ratio. Now, this is from misconfig_exe, and this was a very interesting point that he made on the charts right here. He says every cycle, Bitcoin recovers from its previous bear market 0 to 1 as marked, then exceeds the recovery by 61.8% of the downside, marked at the 1.618 level. Every cycle, after exceeding above 1.618, Bitcoin has tested this level of support before. So having a look at history, even though these have always been very scary and fearful times, this is something that Bitcoin has done 2 times perfectly before. Granted, Bitcoin has quite a short history. It's only happened twice. Doesn't mean it has to keep happening. But you can see right here, he zooms in per cycle, and you can see right here, this happened in 2013 to 2014 back in June, and then we continued to go upwards. We had the same retest again. This was in June of 2017, and then we did go up to the all-time high. And zooming in again, it appears that that is exactly what Bitcoin is doing once again. So having a look at this, you might just say, well, Bitcoin's just being Bitcoin, right? But of course, living through it, going through the day-to-day, it can get a little bit scary, especially if you are new to the space. Now, Willy Woo had this really long, tweet storm, which I'm not going to go into the full thing. I just recommend you go follow him. He does do on-chain metrics. But essentially, he says, are we in a bear market? Well, bear markets start when no new buyers enter to support price, and that isn't happening. We actually have healthy growth of new users joining the network. He says also, of primary interest is capital rotation from stablecoins back into the crypto market. I'll say that mainly Bitcoin, since altcoins are reducing in dominance. All of that dry powder sitting on the sidelines has actually started to flow back in. He talks about the NVT signal as well. he says that this is clearly in a no-brainer. I mean, you can honestly see every time we dip below these levels, this is usually genuinely a time where you'd be looking to buy Bitcoin, or whenever you get into these lower regions. We're very, very low on this region. So that's something else to consider, right? Although on-chain metrics, take them with a grain of salt. There can be a lot of funny business that happens in the background, but it is something to consider. And also, if you want to see who actually has been selling, you could see right here, whale holders that hold at least 1,000 Bitcoin in their addresses continue to show a pattern of accumulation, as well as mid-tier hodlers from 10 to 1,000 Bitcoin are not flinching. Once again, what we are seeing, the majority happening, at least what we can see on chain, at least what we can see is it's mostly small retail that has gotten in recently and is panic selling for losses. So obviously, as I say, guys, long-term strategy is hodling. And just to end on some good news, since El Salvador took the progressive step of recognizing Bitcoin as legal tender, politicians from several other Latin American countries have also signaled a similar intent. So far on the list of potential to legalize Bitcoin are Paraguay, Panama, Brazil, Mexico, and Argentina. Now, does this have some relation to why the DXY has been pumping? I don't know. I can't find that correlation, which is why I said if you guys have an article or something concrete, let me know. But like I said, it could just be because the technicals were due for a bounce, right? But anyway, several politicians from the above-named countries have added red laser eyes to their social media pictures, including Paraguay's National Deputy Carlitos Rajala. It says, as news of El Salvador legalizing Bitcoin was filtered out earlier this month, Rajala posted a message referring to the importance of embracing the technological innovation. He says, as I was saying a long time ago, our country needs to advance hand in hand with the new generation. The moment has come, our moment. This week, we start with an important project to innovate Paraguay in front of the world, the real one, to the moon, Bitcoin and PayPal. So yeah, guys, I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we're seeing countries adopting Bitcoin. This is the Bitcoin standard, right? This is what we've talked about for years. While things don't look necessarily great on the charts, we do know that the fundamentals are stronger than ever for Bitcoin. Dollar cost averaging has always been your best friend. So that being said, guys, that is my update for today. I tried to keep it short. I know, short, right? Still like 18 minutes long, but that's it for me today, guys. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel. Hope you enjoy your weekend. And if you are looking to trade Bitcoin, definitely be safe. It is crazy times out there, but if you want to learn how to do it responsibly and profitably, check out these videos popping up right here, right now. And until next time, that is it for me. Stay crypto, and of course, peace out.